Hello, thank you for joining us today for the breakout session, Managing Uncertainty, How to Maintain Learning Continuity and Student Success in the COVID Era. Let's set the stage for today's conversation on managing uncertainty and delivering continuity and student success with all the challenges facing higher education. There's volatility, changing day by day, the need for quality and continuity. Campuses are opening and closing, needing to both enable continuity, but drive quality learning regardless of modality. We have institutional concerns on enrollment, learners who may take a gap year, who are considering going online or considering other options. Then there's the concept of international learners and international learner engagement. Finally, there's cost pressure to accomplish all of the aforementioned in an environment of financial constraints. During today's session, I have the privilege of being joined by two higher education innovators with track records of success in developing and scaling solutions that support student outcomes as well as university goals. The speakers joining us today are Anant Agarwal, founder and CEO of edX and MIT professor, as well as Caroline Levander, VP Global Digital Strategy and professor, Rice University. I'd like to get started with you, Anant. Anant, when COVID hit, campuses were closing, schools needed to scramble to create options for students, and approaches to remote teaching and learning were varied greatly by institution, by department, and by course. What did you see and hear as the immediate needs of higher ed?
We were hearing the same things from universities all over the world, whether in the US or elsewhere. They were challenged with the continuity. How would the learners have continuous access to content? They all had to go from learning in person to 100% learning online. So continuity was a challenge, and also engagement was a challenge both for students within their own countries or students coming in from abroad. So as edX has been chatting with a lot of the university leaders around the world, we've been thinking about how can we naturally help in this situation. So before I begin, just a very quick overview of edX. edX is a learning platform. We partner with some of the top institutions in the world. Caroline Levander's own institution, Rice, is one of our partners. MIT, Harvard, Oxford, Amazon Web Services, IBM, and others are our content partners. We have 160 of these partners. On our platform, these partners create their courses and programs, and we have learners from all over the world who are coming and learning on edX. We have over 33 million learners who are learning on edX. They come from 196 countries. We also partner with over 14 to 1,500 corporations and institutions, university institutions, whose students or employees are taking our courses. And on the screen here, you see some images of actual learners who are on edX. These learners are learning, and they're also getting credentials, new modular credentials like microbachelors or micromasters, professional certificates, and even full online degrees. One of the things we're hearing during COVID times, as we surveyed people who are interested in learning all around the world, is that they're looking for short programs, something that they could learn in 2 or 3 or 4 months, so that when this pandemic is over, they can come out much better skilled and be ready for the future of work. And so modular credentials like micromasters and microbachelors are very much in demand. So in order to work with the university partners, we launched edX Online Campus. As I mentioned earlier, and Chris mentioned earlier, the universities were struggling with content and business continuity for the universities, and a challenge for the students on how to get, how to have great learning opportunities. Creating online content is expensive, and so we launched edX Online Campus. And in responding to this need, we launched a free version of edX Online Campus in May of this year, making it available for free for several months. And over 400 universities are participating, and over 100,000 students from those universities are now taking our courses from almost 60 countries. So edX Online Campus enables the edX platform to be available to the students at a university where they can be studying in a group, and their professor, for example, might be facilitating the learning. And we'll talk more about this. And next, we'd love to hear Rice's own experiences in this, as the pandemic hit. What have been their own experiences as we move into this era?
Thank you, Anant. At this point, I'd like to turn the conversation over to Carolyn. Carolyn, how did Rice University pivot when COVID first began affecting operations and learning?
Thank you. Great to be here. And let me say that we were the first university when there was a COVID positive case in Houston to close down fully, sent our students home and spent about 13 days training all of our faculty in online delivery. So our pivot was decisive. It was fast paced. The rest of the semester was delivered remotely, and we learned a lot in that process. One thing we learned is that we needed to do it better. And so we took down our summer course schedule, rebuilt it entirely for online delivery, and then revisited our tuition structure for summer sessions to incentivize our students to actually take summer session at scale. And so what we found is by the end of summer session, we had half of our undergraduate students who had successfully taken a Rice course fully online from the first day of class through the final exams. That was very important for us as we turned to the fall. It was also very important to train over 130 Rice faculty in how to build student success online, how to build community online. We had a series of trainings that all summer session faculty had to take. And so we turned into the fall semester 3 weeks ago with some real learnings that have been quite relevant as we deliver what we call dual delivery this fall. All of our 2,000 undergraduate courses are dual delivery or fully online. And what dual delivery means is that we have built out classrooms so that any faculty member teaching face-to-face also is teaching students remotely as they need to be remote. That's been a wonderfully resilient, if more complicated way to deliver our fall semester online. The other thing I would like to share is we also revisited our campus infrastructure. So what that meant is, as we looked at our campus with new eyes, with an eye to social distancing and safe occupancy, we looked at the outside of our buildings as well as the inside. So we built a series of tents on our campus. Half of them are hurricane resistant, which is very important in Houston. The other half are more sunny day tents. And we gave students folding chairs and we said, this is 300 acres of campus is yours. Please convene safely and socially distanced ways. But we approach the campus as a full ecosystem to support dual delivery, online, all of the above. I would finally mention that to help our faculty with dual delivery, which is more complex in many ways, we deputized a number of undergraduates to be technology TAs. And what that means is they sit in the classroom, they help faculty with some of the tech support, no domain expertise of the subject, of course, but tech support. And that's been a really community convening and very, very powerful thing for our students as well as our faculty.
So it sounds like you've been incredibly busy, but it sounds like there's been some great work underway to really help drive both continuity and quality at Rice University.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I would really want to call out the ingenuity and the commitment of our faculty who, are essential to this. They have been willing and able and excited to reimagine pedagogy for online delivery. And that's meant revisiting everything from the tempo of class, the assessment requirements, the timing. It's been, I think, a time of great creativity and innovation, of course, as well as uncertainty.
And so with that said, Carolyn, the context is great and what the work that you've done is great. What do you see as the largest both challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for the future for higher education?
Yes, well, thank you. Great question. I wish I could see the future, as I'm sure we all wish. What I would say, though, is I think key learnings for us that we will continue to iterate on moving forward are our students have really relished the greater student mobility. And so what we found with our summer school, as I mentioned, in prior years, Rice students hadn't really enrolled in summer school. But this summer they did, and it wasn't only because other summer options were unavailable to them or the tuition was lower. It was that they were able to learn where they lived. And that was integral to their appetite for learning in what's traditionally a downtime for many academic campuses. So I think greater student mobility moving forward is going to be both an opportunity and a challenge. I can imagine a future where students will want to take Rice courses online while they're not in Houston or on our campus. In fact, this very semester, we have about 100 students in China who are taking Rice courses fully online while they're in residence at a partner university, a partner Chinese university. We are, having other students around the world who can't get home go to designated workspaces and, take their Rice online courses remotely. I would imagine that moving forward, that's going to be a capability that students are really going to want and see as a value add for their undergraduate experience. I also think faculty will see that as a value add. It's much better in a way for students to be able to take courses with Rice faculty that are required for a major, for example, than to transfer in credit from another institution. And so, I could imagine students who have to stop out or thought they had to stop out because of illness of a family member or other issues could now continue to take, their full course load off-site and, accelerate their time to degree, which I think is very important in these days and times. So I think that's a big opportunity. It's a challenge, as I mentioned, for universities because it means we have to build greater infrastructure to support that, that more personalized learning experience for students. But it really is the kind of thing that a university like Rice is very committed to providing. I think the other opportunity that I would just suggest, I mentioned earlier, is, the fact is, I think the days of students and faculty marching into large lecture halls, sitting side by side, 100 strong, and listening to a lecture are probably behind us. So what that will mean is greater asynchronous content built ahead of time to support hybrid blended learning experiences for those students who are on campus. And I think that we've already seen there's real value add there, greater, again, personalization. Students no longer one of 100 or 200, but feel like they're one of 20, and have access to faculty in ways that are much more intimate and bespoke to their learning needs.
Great insight, Carolyn. Now, Anant, I'd like to ask you a similar question. What do you think of the future of higher education, and what do you think it'll look like? What should colleges and universities be preparing for now?
I think Carolyn was right on, which is that the future of learning is entering a new normal. And frankly, what we've learned during COVID is going to be the new normal where learning is going to become blended in the future. And the kind of things that we are seeing universities do today presages what we're going to see in the future. So I'll give you some examples. With edX Online Campus, many universities are leveraging these courses for their campus students. And we see three major ways in which people are changing how they work on campus. One is blended learning, as Carolyn mentioned. Second is faculty facilitated learning. And third is independent learning. So let's start with independent learning. So independent learning is where a university may assign online courses to its students and simply have them complete the course and give them credit for it. They're also using the same approach for faculty development and training for staff, and also in some cases for alumni. And IIT Bombay in India is working with edX and using many of the courses in this manner. The next one is faculty facilitated learning. And an example here is the University of Iceland. So here what's happening is that the university enrolls its students in online courses. And rather than having the students just do it themselves, an instructor, a teaching assistant, a faculty member might work with the students to facilitate the learning, where it could be as simple as checking in on the students and see how they're doing. It could be answering questions from the students, or generally prompting discussions or supporting the students. And this is what the University of Iceland is doing. And what they did was they actually used multiple courses on edX, 4 courses on edX, and they combined these courses from different universities, and they are having the students take these courses throughout the summer and fall. And then comes blended learning. Blended learning is where there is a true integration of online learning and in person, where the faculty at the university may augment their own teaching with content from online courses. So for example, a professor may decide that they're not going to give lectures in a classroom. Instead, the students may watch asynchronous videos. And then the students may get together and solve problems together. So that's one example of blended learning. Another example of blended learning is the one used by the IT university in Pakistan. So what they do is they're using a MicroMasters program in data science from the University of California, San Diego on edX. So their students complete the MicroMasters completely online, and then they take courses from campus faculty, and at the end they get a master's degree from the IT university in Pakistan. So you have various kinds of blendings happening where students are doing online content and in-person content. And so one concrete example that has been very successful is at San Jose City College. It's a great community college in California. What they're doing, and here you see an image of Mark Branham, who's an instructor in computer science. And they're using the edX platform and platform tools. And they're using many courses from Berkeley, MIT, and others for their students. So one example is they have the students watch the asynchronous videos and solve problems online. And the professor, Mark, helps the students stay on track. And he might help them along. He might also give them support. And the platform provides an instructor dashboard where students' grades and other features are available to the instructor who is helping their own students. And at the end, not only do they get credit from their university, from the college, but they also get the certificate from the program online. And in his words, his words here really epitomize the challenge and opportunity facing all of us. The challenge, of course, is that it is hard work transitioning universities from going in person to going fully online. And Caroline, talked about how Rice University did that and went into just a really revolutionary dual mode approach where students can take courses online or in person. But it's hard. It's really, really hard to do that. So huge kudos to Rice for accomplishing that. And as Mark Branham says, there is benefit to sharing content with other universities and using existing digital materials to complement the kind of teaching that they're doing themselves. So these approaches can help the universities tackle this huge COVID issue. And by doing so, what happens is that for the students, learning can become more resilient and flexible. They get access to more content. They can learn on their own time. One of the stories I heard from my daughter, she's a senior in college. And one of the things she told me was that, learning online is actually so much better. I don't have to wake up for 9 o'clock classes anymore. I can do the videos asynchronously at midnight. And so it just becomes much more flexible for students. They get modular credentials. A university gives you a degree, but many of these universities are using courses from other universities where the students get a modular credential like a professional certificate or a MicroMasters or other certificate along with their degree. So they are getting employable skills and getting these credentials that not only enhance their experience, but also give them value as they're going through the university. So with that, let me pass it back to Chris. And really the challenge is an equal opportunity for us, as in meeting the challenges, we see amazing opportunities for changing how universities think and behave to create this new normal that we've all been forced into.
I'd like to thank Caroline, you, and Anant as well for your time today, for your insights. But before parting and moving on to questions, I'd like to ask both of you, if you had one piece of advice to share with our participants today, what advice would you provide?
Caroline, why don't you go first?
Sure, absolutely. I would say be sure, however you deliver your coursework, build community while you do it. So much of a college experience is not the classroom. And so thinking about ways to build community while students and faculty are remote is really going to be crucial to the dynamism of your campuses moving forward. That and great faculty governance over your online offerings. I think those two things together are absolute money in the bank.
Great point. Great point. Anant?
Well, I think my advice for university leaders and for universities and colleges would be to follow the lead of visionaries like Caroline Levander and others, where during these COVID times, we've had to all pivot. And as university leaders, we've all been forced into online teaching. Before COVID, only a small fraction of faculty and students had done online learning, and generally the acceptance of it was mixed. But post-COVID, the world has gone to online learning 100%. All faculty, all students are now learning online, and I'm hearing that about 70 to 80% of the faculty are viewing it positively or neutrally. In the past, a lot of the pressure and a lot of the negative sentiments have gone away. Students have also benefited from the flexibility and the experiences that they're getting online. And so for university leaders, my advice would be to seize the moment. This is the opportunity as faculty and university leaders, is to think about the future, to think about what we're doing today as the new normal, where blended learning, which is a mix of online learning and in-person learning, will become the new normal. So use this moment, seize the moment, and set in place processes so that online learning and in-person learning will coexist on your campuses. And this is the time to actually make it happen. So as COVID, it is going to end, but things will end and life will go back to normal. But I encourage you to have a long-term vision and to think about creating a new normal that is similar to what you're doing today, and to create the blended model of learning as the new normal for your universities.
Those are great points. And again, I want to thank both you, Caroline, and you, Anant, for your time today and your insight. And at that point, we are wrapping and moving to questions. The first question I'd like to direct over to Caroline. It sounds like you're thinking of this as a business opportunity for increasing enrollment. Is there a new curriculum being developed for students in China, or are you using existing courses?
So let me clarify, this is not a strategy to increase enrollment. These are current Rice students who live in China and were unable to return to Rice because of COVID. And so we have a large number of these students. We sent a survey to them asking if they could have the opportunity to live on a university campus but take Rice courses online. Would they welcome that? A substantial percentage of them said that they would indeed welcome that. And so that's how this collaboration with the Chinese university partner came to pass. They are taking all Rice online courses that are currently offered, so no new courses or different courses for them. But we did work out an agreement where if they would like, they can take one face-to-face course on the university campus, offered by that university.
Great. Thanks so much, Caroline. The second question I'm actually going to direct at both of you. I'll start with Anant, and then I'll repeat the question for you as well, Caroline. Anant, the second question is, do you think when COVID is finally over, we will head back to a time where face-to-face is the norm? Have you seen examples of universities planning for a permanent blended future?
I think the data and indications that we're seeing is pretty clear. That is, the future is going to be a blended future at universities. We are already in a new mode today where near 100% of the learning has gone online during COVID. But once COVID goes away, or we go into this new normal, we are going to be an increasingly blended learning society where in universities, we're going to mix online and in person, either in initially in small ways, but then over time, I believe that it will get to, it could even be 50-50. So the blended learning model is the new model for campuses going forward. And one reason that I believe this is going to happen is everybody has had a chance to try out online learning during this time, students and faculty both. And by and large, I would say, if you were to ask me, 70-80% of them were either happy with it or were neutral to it. And so, and many of them understand and appreciate the new affordances of it. You know, my daughter, for example, doesn't have to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning for class anymore. So I think the blended model is the new normal for colleges.
Those are great points. Caroline, I'd like to ask you the same question. Do you think when COVID is finally over, we'll head back to a time where face-to-face is the norm? And have you seen examples of universities planning for a permanent blended future?
So thanks. I think that the truism is that COVID has accelerated a number of changes that were underway. I think that holds for blended learning. And so I think we're in for a future where there will be creative blending of all sorts. I think faculty have become comfortable with online teaching in a way that they weren't 6 months ago, and will carry it forward into their classrooms in all kinds of creative ways. As I said earlier, I also think that students are coming to really understand the value of greater student mobility. Anant is absolutely right. It's wonderful to be able to take your class from your room if you don't want to be in the classroom. It's also great to be able to take your class from places further afield. And so I do predict we're going to see a real renaissance of pedagogical innovation that leverages this powerful new capability.
In fact, I also heard there'll be other forms of blending as well. Like I was just talking to a student who is taking a gap year this year. He's not going to college this year. He's a high schooler. And what he's thinking of doing is taking certificate programs and online courses that count for credit completely online this year, and then go back to college next year. So I think there'll be a new form of blending where students will come to college having completed either one semester or 1 year, and in some cases, maybe even 2 years of college, and then go and spend 1, 2, or 3 years in college for the college experience, and then go to work. And so I believe that there'll be blending in many, many different ways where people will be learning online and in person at all times.
I think those are all really, really great points. I really appreciate both the questions from the audience as well as the answers that our two esteemed colleagues and speakers have been able to share with us. Do we have time for one more question, Sean?
If it's quick, very quick.
All right, so I have one last question. Let me go ahead and ask it to Caroline. Caroline, how do you balance the downsides of online learning? One of our audience members has mentioned that constant Zooms has been draining for students.
Yeah, I think constant Zooms are draining for all of us. And so, I would hope that we would see a future where we wouldn't rely on that as the be all and end all for remote learning or online learning. I think there are downsides in face-to-face learning as well. And I think we're going to get smarter about identifying the downsides and then, addressing them intelligently over time. I don't think we're there right now. I think we're still identifying what those downsides are. I think there's fatigue for sure. I think there's questions of persistence, particularly when you take access differentials into account. So I think we're going to need to really pay attention to ensuring that all of our students, regardless of the environment in which they are learning remotely, have optimal learning and equal learning opportunities. So I think there are substantial challenges ahead. Let's not be triumphalist here, but I think it's a powerful tool and capability, and we will get better at it as time goes on.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much. I do believe we are at time at this point. I'd like to thank everyone I'd like to thank both, Caroline and Anant for, joining me today and helping be speakers in the session, but also thank the audience for the time that they've spent with us today.